Morning. I am traveling again today, so we have an early Tao of the day. So if you're up for joining me, I would love to have you. I just sipping a little decaf. How you guys doing this morning? I am traveling, so this is an early Tao of the day. I have started looking at a new translation of the Tao, and so we are going to use that today. I'm going to be using the Derek Lynn 1994 translation. What I ask is that you come up and pick a number between 1 and 81, and I will read you your Tao for the day. The Tao is an ancient text written about 600 BC, and it translates to the canon of reason. So it's all about this is the core of all reasonable living. And the Tao is a beautiful place to start kind of bringing focus to yourself and to the world around you as it relates to uh, as it relates to living a reasonable life. If you're interested in stepping up and giving me a number between 1 and 81, I will share the Tao with you. I'll share your Tao with you. I'm going to pick number 26 today so that we can, just get things off on the right foot. Don't know what that looks like, but here we are. And in this Derek Lynn version, we have heaviness is the root of lightness. Quietness is the master of restlessness. Therefore, the sage travels the entire day without leaving the heavy supplies. Even though there are luxurious sights, he is composed to transcend beyond. How can the Lord of 10,000 chariots, how can the Lord of 10,000 chariots apply himself lightly to the world? To be light is to lose one's root. To be restless is to lose one's mastery. Interesting. So heaviness is the root of lightness. Okay, so heaviness is the root of lightness. There are to have power. I just started the Johann Hari book about paying attention. I forget the title of it. But heaviness is the root of lightness. We are constantly inundated these days with a myriad of different things going on around us that we have to, contend with in terms of our ability to pay attention. That comes to mind here, right? Like heaviness is the root of lightness. When you engage in social media, when you engage in things around you, such as that, when you engage in the world as a space of actual engaging, right? That masculine aspect of engagement. You get to this place where it is heavy. Um, Heaviness is the root of lightness. Quietness is the master of restlessness. Hmm. Yeah, I'm just trying to kind of get through this a little bit. I'm trying to think about this. It's nice to come on early because I can stop and process things a little differently than when I have guests. But heaviness is the root of lightness. Quietness is the master of restlessness. I am gonna go back to my buddy. I'm gonna go back to my buddy. And so the heavy is the root of the light, the unmoved is the source of all movement. Thus, the master travels all day without leaving home. However splendid the views, she stays serenely in herself. Heaviness is the root of lightness. Quietness is the master of restlessness. Heaviness is the root of lightness. So this is a fun little thing. It's just how do I want to what I start with when I look at the Tao is like I want to ask myself, how do I want to process this? How do I want to process the words heaviness and lightness? And how do I want to process quietness and restlessness? So heaviness is the root of lightness. And so I'm thinking about a light life, a life that is easy. There is heaviness at the helm. When we start thinking about social media, everything is light, and yet your life is full of stresses, your life is full of anxiety, your life is very heavy. So heaviness is the root of lightness. If like I've been preparing for my dark retreat, and in doing so, I've been doing 2 hour sits every day. I do a 2 hour meditation sit. Now, I also do other meditative practices, mindful movement and my exercises and other things like that. But I'm making it a point to sit for 2 hours. This is a heavy, heavy practice, right? Like sitting for 2 hours is heavy. One, it's a lot of time. Two, it's sitting in one place, so there's heaviness there, right? It is not easy to carry that load. But my life day to day seems to be flowing much easier. So my life, as I explore it, as I kind of live it from moment to moment after that, or during that, things seem to be easier. So heaviness is the root of lightness. Now, um, if your life is filled with lightness, your your world, right? Like if your life is filled with distraction, things that you just dip into, right? Your phone, social media, and all of these things, well, that's going to tend to be a pacifier. And then you pacify, 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 and in pacifying, what you end up exploring or exposing in your life is anxiety, stress, and other things like that. Because what you're doing is you're avoiding really looking at that which you are engaged in. So that is something that we want to be able to examine. Okay, so heaviness is the root of light. Quietness is the master of restlessness. So, right, quietness is the master of restlessness, meaning if you can be quiet, you can overcome restlessness. Okay, I can see that, right? So, heaviness is the root of lightness. Gotcha, we're good. And quietness is the master of restlessness. So, heaviness and restlessness can play together, and then lightness and quietness can play together, right? So heaviness is the root of lightness. So if you can sit in a heavy space, well, wait. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. Heaviness is the root of lightness. Quietness is the master of restlessness. I read these just to let them kind of swim in my head. Heaviness is like my meditation practice, or restlessness in life, really. Restlessness in life. So if you have restlessness in life, that's your heaviness because you're restless. And you're constantly looking at things, is the root of lightness. Lightness being the distractions. So you've actually kind of turned everything upside down around its head. And so that's an interesting sort of look at it, right? Heaviness is the root of lightness. So if you have a heavy practice, like if you have a heavy practice of meditation, your life will be light. If you have a heavy practice of distraction or addiction, um, your life, heaviness is the root of lightness. Mm. If your life is heavy. Hmm. So yeah, so I that's an interesting sort of way of looking at it. Heaviness is the root of lightness. Heaviness will blossom lightness, right? Like heaviness will, huh? If your life is heavy, you will turn toward things that are light. Drugs, alcohol, those sorts of things that you have to re-engage all the time. Because that's lightness, right? Heaviness is a rooted thing. And if your life is rooted in struggle, if your life is rooted in anxiety, if your life is rooted in those sorts of heavy things that we have, all those heavy diagnoses, then it's the root of lightness. It's going to blossom, um, e- e- experiencing life through things that are not known for their depth. Drugs, alcohol, television, social media, things like that. Now, on the other side of that, if your life is rooted in a deep stillness practice, well, then your life will be filled with less light, less heaviness. Your life will be filled with things that are light. Like you will be able to make choices. You won't have so much anxiety. So that's how I can explore this. Heaviness is the root of lightness. Quietness is the master of restlessness. So if you want to master restlessness, quietness is the way to do that. Therefore, the sage travels all day without leaving the heavy supplies. When I look at heavy supplies, I look at the home. That's where you keep your stuff, right? So and the heavy supplies could also just be the essence of life, right? Like the heavy supplies of how we engage in life. So without leaving the heavy supplies, therefore the sage travels all day without leaving the heavy supplies. She didn't have to go anywhere. And I think in the Stephen Mitchell version, it was like without leaving her home. Even though there are luxurious sights, she is composed and transcends beyond. That's there's one in the Stephen Mitchell. It's just like it mentions like people being in a circus, right? This idea of even though there are luxurious sights, she is composed and transcends beyond. She doesn't have to engage in those luxurious sights so much. She can just be composed. She doesn't have to always be so excited to see something. She doesn't have to always be in this space of understanding that like she's not here to be entertained. This is heaviness is the root of lightness. If you are living in your life in a way that you're looking to be entertained, that is a light engagement with your surroundings. Thus your life is going to be heavy. But if you allow your life, the root of your life, to be heavy, i.e., like a stillness practice, a deep stillness practice, as I mentioned earlier, I'm trying to sit for 2 hours a day as I explore or um, as I get closer to the time I'm doing my dark retreat. So that would be heavy, rooting itself to provide lightness. But if my life is heavy, then the root of a heavy life is going to force me to look to lightness and look to things that I can celebrate, look to things that I can engage in that are how do I want to say this, that are fleeting, right? My life would need distraction, even though there are luxurious sights. She is composed and transcends beyond. It is, you are not being swept away by every little beautiful thing. You are not being swept away by that. And so that's a really nice way of looking at that. So how can the Lord of 10,000 chariots apply himself lightly to the world? So how can the Lord of 10,000 chariots? You, of course, are the Lord of 10,000 chariots. Julie's going to join me. And how can he apply himself lightly? how can he just take this world lightly as a way of escape? Julie, how are you this morning? Or this,
Good
yeah.
morning. I have just caught you and heard the word chariot and thought, just press lighter on the pedals, mate.
How
Good
are you, my
morning.
dear?
I'm all right. I've just woken up,
Oh yeah, well,
which is
you and me
terrible,
both.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're like doing it at a decent time of day. You're going to actually greet the day, whereas I'm going, oh, way up, day. Wait for me. I'm just
Yeah,
catching
yeah,
up,
yeah.
mate.
I talk about this interestingly. It's like I think like because I wake up, between like around 4 o'clock in the morning, right? So I wake up
Yes.
before the sun, like all year, even though we're probably on the same northern, like
Yeah.
latitude, but I. The sun, when you wake up early, the sun is like it comes up slowly. You know what I mean? Like you get to experience that. It starts
I
dark
know.
and
I
the
used to. I used to get up like you. I used to get up really early and I used to sit out on the bow of my boat and watch it rise up the river because the river that I'm on faces east to west. So I used
mm,
to be able to watch the sun rise up and shine along the river. It used to be beautiful. But at the moment, I'm in my partner's mother's house, being
right.
very, saving on electric and stuff. And I miss it. I really am missing outside and the sun rising and getting up early.
Yeah,
Don't worry, it's coming soon.
I know. I it's beautiful. And so I look at that and I look at like when you wake up and the sun is already up and it's dark in your room and then you open the blinds and it's just like painful. It's like it hurts the eyes to and and I kind of look at so many things as being like, in your life, that moment you have to wake up in your life, that like the earlier you do that, um,
Yeah.
the more easy it is to kind of watch the light rise. But then, like when you do that later in life, like you're kind of whipping open the curtains and like, oh, it's really painful at first.
Yeah.
And it's like it's really hard to get your sight back at first. And then it's like, but then you're in the day and all's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
So I look at that just as a little metaphor of just like, hey, the earlier you can do it, which is why, it's wonderful that I was able to talk to Sophie and Millie because like, you plant those seeds so that they can start getting up before the sun.
Yeah. Did you get a message from me telling you how wonderful we all think you are?
Mm. I always do, but I did get one. I did get one on Instagram, I believe. Maybe it
Yeah.
was maybe it was WhatsApp. I don't know, but there, with all the ways that we can connect these days, it's hard to
Yeah.
remember where I
It,
get them. But yes, I did.
well, that's from us all. That is from me, Millie, uh, Brad, Sophie. It's from us all. It's from us all. It's a little gift to you because you really have helped me gain some magic. That's
Yeah.
all. So
Oh,
thanks.
that's beautiful. I was
Yeah.
talking. I have a new client, and I when I start working with clients, I start by doing their portrait,
Yes.
and so I did this woman's portrait on Sunday, and she was actually in my workshop yesterday,
Yeah.
and her partner was like, her and her partner were like, everybody's noticing this huge shift on that just after one session, and it's like, well, it's not much. It's not much that you have to do, and it's not hidden. It's all right there. It's like I'm
Yes.
not. Like, and I always look at it like I'm not really doing the work, like, and that's what like that's what's so great about presenting this to like you and everybody else is just
That's
that.
what I said. That's what I said. I said you are. It's lovely that it's you that have given the tools for me to use.
Hmm.
That's what it is. That's what it is. It's
Yeah, and you
so
have them now and they're
do,
your tools.
and I've used them regularly. I have to say. I have
It's
the
so fun. It's
It
so
is.
fun to grow in this
It
direct
is.
way that you can see. Like every day you can be like, hey, look, I chose something different.
I did.
Like
I
what?
do.
Like what a beautiful, beautiful thing. So do you have a number for me?
Do I have a number? Yes, I always have a number.
Oh, good.
Today it is 43.
43. And we are utilizing this new translation. So I'm glad this one's a little short because it's harder for me. It's kind of like learning a
Yeah.
new language. I don't know how, it's like sometimes the words that we use, the words that are used in the Mitchell version, uh, 43. The words that we use in the Mitchell version, I get those because I've been reading the Mitchell version for over, a decade. So here I am reading a new version, and although I've seen this version before, I don't know it as well. So let's
But
see
the
what.
thing is you are growing. You're
That's right.
growing
That's
yourself as
right.
well,
That's
yes.
right. Yeah, and that's the thing. I always push myself to be a little uncomfortable. Because when I can be a
Yeah, I think.
little uncomfortable, like, because discomfort's normal, it's something that's going to come up all the time. And so, as long as I can continue to be comfortable or be familiar with discomfort, then I know I'll be able to face the day.
And also, discomfort encourages effort.
Yeah, and resilience, right? Like
Yeah.
all of these things just get increasingly, like the last Tao that I was reading earlier, the one that I picked was 26, and it was like the heaviness is the root of lightness. And this idea, had come to me, and it took me a while to really kind of understand that. But it's like,
Mhm.
right now I have a very heavy meditation practice as I prepare for my dark retreat, and
Yeah.
my days are getting so much lighter. But then if my if in my life was a lot of anxiety and dread and frustration, my actions in my life would be light, meaning they would be shallow actions of escape, actions of, with drugs, alcohol, social media, all of those sorts of things. And so
Escape.
it's really funny how those things can switch, and like but when you focus on what it is you're rooting, then you will blossom lightness. And so that's a, like just a different way of looking at it and stuff. So
Yeah.
here we go on yours. The
Thank
softest
you.
things of the world override the hardest things of the world. That which has no substance enters into that which has no openings. From this, I know the benefits of non attached actions. The teaching without words, the benefits of actions without attachment, are rarely matched in the world. That's it.
That's cool. I like.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I like this. So this one ends with this, from this, like, so it's saying, because of what we just said, the softest things override the hardest things. That which has no substance enters that which has no openings. From this, I know the benefits of non-attached actions. So a non-attached action. Can you like, I know you've been, growing. Is there an action that you've taken recently that has no attachment?
I just trying to think about that because I was reading that very differently. I was thinking that if you give somebody some love,
Mm-hmm.
that is a non-attached action, isn't it?
Yeah,
If you're So that's what I would say. And
absolutely.
people
And
can
like, if you give
receive
someone
that.
real love,
Yes, they can
like the
receive
love
it.
that you and I have for each other, I think is
Yeah,
very non-attached. Like,
yeah,
however you use it, you use it.
yeah. But it's. So say I send you a message and I tell you, Martin John, I love you, and it is just for your essence. That love is for the essence, Martin John, and the thanks, Martin John. And you know a lot about me. I've invited you into my world quite happily. It's a non-attached action. It is.
Until I don't respond and you get angry. But that's the thing. You you
No.
know, if I don't respond, it's okay.
Yes. That's
And that's
perfectly okay.
non-attached.
Yes. That is
Right.
fine. Yes. Because it was a total give. It was a total gift. It didn't look for a return. It didn't. So that's a non-attached action. And
That's
I
interesting.
felt great because I'd said, this is how it is. Thank you. You are cherished. You are loved. End of story. If you
Yeah.
didn't return it, that's fine.
And and that is like, and you could do that even in prayer,
Yes.
right? And that's where, like, so from this I know the benefits of non-attached action, the
Yeah.
teaching without words. Like this idea of, like, you're telling me this, but what you're also doing is you're teaching me, like, in a way you're teaching me about my value.
Yeah.
And
Yes. Or
the
how you may see the
benefit,
world, or
what's that?
how you may see the world, or all Julies are crazy, but they're full of love. I don't know
but
what how
but
you
you
may
know,
see.
like that idea of teaching without words, that means, that doesn't mean like no words, but it means teaching without, like, you're being moved through your heart, and you are
Yes.
not being moved to teach me anything,
No.
right?
It
And
is.
because of
Yeah.
that, that is what would be considered a non-attached action. And
Yeah.
there is benefit to that for everybody.
Yes.
You have benefit from it. I
Yes.
get to benefit from it.
Yeah.
And that's why the benefits of non-attack of actions without attachment are rarely matched in the world. Like, wow, what a beautiful last line, right? Like, the benefits of action without attachment are rarely matched in the world. Like,
Yeah.
you can't match the benefits of actions that have no attachment.
Correct. Absolutely. And it's good, isn't it? It's great. It's lovely to be able to do that.
It
It's
is.
lovely to be able to give that and feel no loss. I don't feel any loss. I don't feel any gain. I
Right.
just feel great.
You know, and this brings us back to the beginning. The softest things in the world override the hardest things in the world.
Yeah.
And that's such a soft, like, when you are just inspired to send that message of I love you.
Yes.
You know, just I'm thinking about you. Just whatever that is a soft thing. But then, like, when you think about, like, the, like, loss and other things like that, and if you are acting, if you are spending time and energy to send I love yous to somebody because you are in a place of
Need.
not but need, right? You
Yes.
it's like
Yes.
all of a sudden you're like, oh, but I'm just trying to tell you, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
just doing this, I'm just loving you, I'm just,
Yeah.
being there for you. But
Yeah.
see,
No
that
need.
brings, yeah, no need.
Yeah.
And then we have this middle line, which is so beautiful and abstract, but it's that which has no substance enters into that which has no openings.
Yeah.
I think about that as, like, when I see homeless people on the street. um, I was walking down the street with a friend of mine from New York, and I saw a homeless guy, and we did, and as we passed, I looked at him, and I looked him in the eye, and I was like, I love you. And that
Yeah.
just came from me, right? It was just a reaction that had, and that man could very well have no opening to allow others in, but he
Yeah.
looked at me and was able to receive that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done very much the same in Bristol over on Monday with my son. We were walking around and he was just rolling roll ups and giving them to the homeless guys. And when I went, I tried to give him some money. He went, no.
Why don't you come back in and land that? I do have one person in the queue, so we're gonna bring you back in, and then we'll land that up because we just finished all of the lines here.
Yeah, so he rolled a roll up and gave him a roll up. And he said, don't give him money. He said, tobacco's more valuable, which is weird, but he gives them a lot of love. He gives them a lot of love.
Yeah, because
And
like it is cigarette tobacco is gonna be like
yeah,
because
I didn't realise
the money is just gonna like there are a
utilise.
million things he can spend his money on, but
Yeah,
there's one thing he's gonna do with the tobacco, and so it has value.
yeah.
You
Well,
know.
how clever is my son to, that blew me away. That did.
Yeah.
That just was in touch that much. So he was giving the love, like you said, he was giving the love, but
Yeah.
he knew he knew where the opening was.
Right. He paid attention, and
he,
that's all it
yeah,
takes.
yeah, he
Oh,
paid
Julie,
attention.
thank you so much for joining me this early morning.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm a bit like. Do you know it's 12:15
Yeah,
lunchtime
I
here?
know it's for you, but it's it's still
But
not 6 here.
I'm pretending I've just woken up and it's a glorious day.
Yes,
It's
it
a
is.
glorious
And
day.
every day is. We just have to
Yeah,
see it that way.
yeah. Thank you so much, Martin. It's
Always love.
always a pleasure to come up here and talk to you.
All right, we'll talk again soon. Okay, we're gonna bring in someone new from Dow for Dow of the Day. Erica, how are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I am doing very well. I don't believe we have spoken before.
I don't think we have either, but I have heard you a couple times, and I'm like, oh my goodness, how perfect is it that I'm seeing this person on this leg of my journey, where you know, automatically I feel that moment where okay, you're in the right place. You're in the
I
right
love I love those little tips, man. Those are so
place.
great.
Yeah, it is such a
So
good feeling. So.
so you're familiar with Tao of the Day then?
No, I am not. Well, just I mean, with you doing it, I see you do it a couple times.
Okay.
Um, but not really. I never had the chance to like really understand exactly what you do.
Oh, okay.
Um, but I'm like, whatever it is, I want
Whatever
to
it is, you're on
experience
board.
it. um,
Well, that's
because
wonderful.
I
So
am learning
yeah.
this. I consider I've been calling myself an omnist. Um, after I left religion, and people were like, well, what are you? What do you believe? And I'm like, well, I'm really about the spiritual realm, period. And I have access, just from my own spiritual gifts. I have to know and have to be open to everything. But for my core, um, this is where I land all the time. And so, I have been challenging myself to delve deeper, into that. And it's been just making me feel more well rounded all the way around. So, but I've never, really actually talked to anyone that, lives their life in that manner. So you're the
Okay.
first.
Oh well. I
I
am
mean,
honored.
I know people that believe in it, but that actually live it in some way day to day,
Hmm.
you know.
Okay. Well, so the Tao of the Day is what I do is I just invite you up, pick a number, and then we go through one of the 81 verses of the Tao Te Ching. So the Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written about 600 BC and by Lao Tzu, and I translate it to the canon of reason, and I look at this age that this was written, and it was in a transition from when we were moving from a very strong feminine space and moving
Hmm.
into a strong masculine space, and so this kind of deals with that threshold. between masculine and feminine. As we now move back into another feminine space, we are at that threshold again. And I think that this text is very relevant for understanding how the feminine interacts with the world, in and how we can allow it to come in. So that's kind of I've actually
That
never
is so
said that
awesome. I
before,
love it.
but that is
Yeah.
how I see it. Yeah.
And I have been telling like everybody that as well. Because I've been seeing it, as it surges through and as the flow comes, and then finally, like we're at this age where we're seeing the masculine start to interact with it and be like, okay, this is what it is. Let's flow,
Yeah.
And it's been so beautiful to see, and the more that I learn, myself and inside of myself and, in interactions with others too, the more that I see, what a massive chance of healing this is bringing to this generation in conjunction with the generations behind us coming through that are honestly way more open and prepared for it. um so yeah,
Well,
okay.
before we run out of too much time, I want you to pick up a number between 1 and 81, and then I'm going to move back to the Stephen Mitchell, because this is the first time you have and
Okay.
I spoken, and so Stephen Mitchell is more my wheelhouse. I was, with Julie and with myself, I can, like, because she's a regular, we can explore different translations, but this is one that I feel really comfortable in presenting. So,
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that there were so many translations. Like yesterday, after I saw you yesterday, all I did was start looking at translations yesterday. I was like, I didn't know there were so many.
Yeah,
So that
there's
was
I
kind of
can,
new.
if you reach out to me on Instagram, I can send you a link to about 130 different
Okay, I
translations.
definitely will. Okay,
Yeah,
so mine is 22.
22.
Yeah, that's the number I picked, but I haven't looked at it. So,
Okay. So this is a beautiful verse, and it's a little longer, so we're going to read through it and then we'll go through it line by line together. If you want to become whole, let yourself be partial. If you want to become straight, let yourself be crooked. If you want to become full, let yourself be empty. If you want to be reborn, let yourself die. If you want to be given everything, give everything up. The Master, by residing in the Tao, sets an example for all beings. Because he doesn't display himself, people can see his light. Because he has nothing to prove, people can trust his words. Because he doesn't know who he is, people can recognize themselves in him. Because he has no goal in mind, everything he does succeeds. When the ancient masters said, if you want to be given everything, give everything up, they weren't using idle phrases. Only by being lived by the Tao can you truly be yourself. Thoughts?
I'm speechless because it's like that is so funny. That is everything that I'm kind of going through and have been going through. Um, for the past, I had this, vision and that, okay, yeah, like you're gonna have to give up everything, like everything. And this was like it was told to me like in July, August, and then December is like kind of when I finally was like accepted it.
Mm-hmm.
um because of that wanting to become whole, because of that wanting to get to the next leg of my spiritual journey. I knew everything had to go, and it was like I had to prepare myself um for what I call my journey of grief, because it's like, oh my goodness, because everything was feeling good, and feeling like I was on the right direction. It's like, oh no, all that has got to go. All of it is going to go. Um, and knowing that, okay, cool, it's going for a reason and it's a good reason. And you got to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, it's been a little bit of a struggle. So to see that kind of like on paper kind of confirm what I've already kind of been going through in my own transformation, it is pretty cool. it feels good.
So, like I wanna commend you on that, and I wanna go through this a little bit, just because like there's an
Hmm.
interesting thing. I mean, okay, so I'm a Reiki master and I do a bunch of stuff, and I'm kind of getting
Hmm.
like a little like um, uh, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 42.
42. Okay. Because I was like, I don't like, because what you're speaking about, like, really kind of sounded like, you might, because I was like, you're older than 20, you're older than 30, right? Like, so
Yeah.
and I say that only because I can feel that, right? It's not, I mean, I'm not looking at your
Right.
picture
Yeah.
and
Energy.
saying,
Yeah.
yeah. And what I'm, like, I don't know if you've heard of Saturn's return.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Because like
Yeah.
what you're talking about kind of really resembles that, and it was really interesting that as I was like, "There's no way she's 28," because I can't like there's she's
I
just older than
know.
that. And so that's why I asked. And I just wanted to be like, because if it was Saturn's return, I wanted to explain it to you just so you didn't freak out. So 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 here, as we go through this, like the whole first section, kind of like we'll because we only have so much time, we'll only
Mhm.
focus on a couple of these things. I'll read the whole first section, which is, if you want to become whole, let yourself be partial. If you want to become straight, let yourself be crooked. If you want to be full, empty, reborn, let yourself die. If you want to be given everything, give everything up. What part of that like really resonates with you? Maybe the first and last lines of just like, be whole. If you want to become whole, let yourself be partial. If you want to be given everything, give everything up. But I want, like, I want to
Yeah,
ask,
that,
like,
that was
what?
it.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I really like started to have the unveiling, of my third eye probably in like 2014, and around the way just like started like letting go of things, and learning to find that part in me where was losing my need to have a definition of what everything should be, so that partial. So I have become very, very partial. I am very crooked. I am
Hmm.
very empty, and I have died a million times.
Yeah.
But I am to the part of, if you want to be given everything, give everything up.
That's beautiful.
And that came that message came in 2021. It's like, no, you got all of this, and everything that um, isn't lined up has got to go. And I was given directions of what all those were. And then some things, happened, and it was like, well, no, these are the very things that I consider the essence of me. And it was like, well,
That's right. That's right.
well, what did you
They're not.
think?
Yeah.
And this is the give everything up aspect
Yeah.
leg of the journey that I'm on, which, honestly encompasses all of those things all over again. But the more, you are on your particular journey, of course, the easier it gets. And then you have different levels, partiality that you have to be on, different levels of emptiness that you have to, um, kind of get through. And even when I know I was going through another cycle of death of what was in my life, and I'm saying it, and I'm even like telling, my clients, because I'm a spiritual life advisor, I'm like, hey, I'm going through this, I don't know
Yeah.
how that's all going to pan out, but some of our appointments are going to have to change, or, this is how we're going to adjust, as I'm going through whatever I'm going through. But it's just like, you do have that mindset and be ready to really, really let go
Yeah.
and of every single little thing that you think is you, because, as I think as we talk about, the feminine and the flow of femininity is, yes, you are you, but water takes many shapes.
That's right. That's beautiful. So this continues to say, the master, by residing in the Tao, sets an example for all beings, which is what you're doing. Because he doesn't display himself, people can see his light. When you don't display yourself, you allow other people to see you. Because he has nothing to prove, people can trust his words. Because he doesn't know who he is, people can recognize themselves in him. In these sorts of things, I see, like, because he has nothing to prove, people can trust his words. It's like when you have an essence of who you are, you have to prove that to other people. When you can get
Right.
rid of your essence, you can just be. And because he has no goal in mind, everything he does succeeds. That's a really kind of poignant place to be when you can get rid of your expectations of yourself completely.
That part, yeah.
You know,
Because ultimately we all do have that, have a way that we see ourselves, no matter what that way is. You do. Um, and which is funny because, like, I really, like I said, the clients that stick with me, they stick with me, but I stopped advertising. I start looking for new. So if they come, they come. If they don't, they don't, because of what, I am going through. And that essence of, not displaying anything, like not advertising, not talking so much about, what's going on with me, in the background in regards to like my work. It's like, oh no, all that is, it's going to flow. It's going to happen the way it needs to happen. But none of that has to go away. And honestly, even me being on the wisdom app, I put, I tell people, yeah, this is what I do, and this is part of who I am, but it's not why I'm here. I'm just here to be me, in my
right.
walk to in enlightenment, and where I am, and to discuss that in a, truly authentic place. So this all lines up with it. This was really awesome.
That's beautiful. And then this last line here: only in being lived by the Tao can you be truly yourself. And that's where that partialness comes in. You live in conjunction with. You are not in control of everything, but you are living in alignment with the Tao, with God, with all things.
Right. It's a beautiful place to be.
Erica, thank you so much for joining me. I so appreciate you coming in and enjoying the Tao with me. Kronos is coming on now. Erica, definitely reach out to me, and I'll send you a link through Instagram. Kronos, how you doing, brother?
Good morning, Martin John. I don't think I've ever had the pleasure of chatting with you. How are you?
Oh, I think we chatted months ago.
Did we chat?
But yeah,
It,
I believe
it,
so.
it all runs together so
It
much,
sure
doesn't it?
does. There's so many people on here, and I think we've only chatted once before. So I think like you might be right. I think that we have
Maybe you
interaction.
came up on my platform once, that because
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think.
remember being up on your platform.
Oh well,
Um,
see,
because
that's distinct.
I've been a little bit overwhelmed by the concept of the Tao of the Day, and I came through halfway through your detail of it with your last guest, and I was hoping you might be able to explain it again for me. I know that it's repetitive, and I
Oh
apologize.
no, that's fine. That's fine. Um, Fuck all. Let me see. She picked 20. Was it 26? No, 22. I usually write. Yeah, it's 22. I would love to go through it again with you.
Yeah, well, I mean,
20.
like, well, no, what I'm asking for is what exactly is the Tao of the Day?
Oh,
That's what I'm,
that explanation. Ah, okay.
yeah,
So the Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written in 600 BC by Lao Tzu, and it came about because the most sort of revered man in this town was going to leave and kind of become a recluse in the wilderness. And he
okay,
told the king, and he was an accountant, and we don't know much about his life, but he wanted to leave, and he was an accountant, and the king was like, "Whoa, dude! Like you're like our best citizen. You know everything about like would you be able to write down like how you've lived and what your secrets are for being so wise?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do that." And then he wrote these 81 verses. So that's what the Tao Te Ching is. And the Tao Te
okay,
Ching I translate to the canon of reason. So it is the root, and it is the complete understanding of how to live a reasonable life. right? So that's how I understand the Tao Te Ching translates. Now it could be it's also been translated into this like it is the way, and that doesn't really express it because it's not a religious text, right? It's more of an early philosophical understanding of living a reasonable life. And as I understand sort of the development of human consciousness, this came about as we were at the beginning of the end of the development of relationship and the beginning of the development of logic in our lives, right? So, everything is on a spectrum. And so the relationship is the feminine, logic is masculine. And so this was developed at 600 BCE, which was around the same time that we suspect the Old Testament was written. And so what we have in the Tao is this understanding of the transition of this is when the feminine started to get oppressed in our consciousness, in our history.
Okay.
And so this is a really important text, especially now as we're moving into a more feminine space, right? Logic has taken us as far as it can go, and the feminine is starting to make its way back in. I don't know if you've noticed that around you, but like the collapse of the old way of doing things, the collapse of forcing people, the collapse of governments, and the collapse of what's going on in Canada, right? Like all of these sorts of things of just like where powers that be are no longer as powerful as they used to be. Those are just ways of thinking, and we understand that now. So this is
So what was logic? What you're telling me is logic is slowly fading away, being replaced by the Tao, and logic is more of a masculine aspect rather than the Tao, which is a feminine aspect. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well, it's all about development, right? It's all about development of consciousness. And so what we look at is like we are going to develop a new level of feminine attachment on top of logic. So logic has led the day for millennia,
Hmm.
and now we have learned enough about logic, and we need to contribute more. We need to contribute more in a different way. We need to contribute more feminine to our consciousness because logic is strangling us, right? So we look at masculine and feminine in this way of like your house, the structure of your house is masculine, like the walls and the building and the
Right.
stuff, but the space within your house is the feminine. So if you were to say build a house and you were to like every time you build a house, you put a new layer of drywall on. And then when that's done, you put a new layer of drywall on. Your house gets smaller and smaller and smaller inside, right?
Hmm.
Because you're filling it with drywall. And it's like structure is not important if you don't have any space. And so what we've done with logic is essentially build a house in which there is no space in order to live. It is a complete solid block. All of a sudden we find that, oh, the house isn't the thing that's important. It's the space within the house that's important. That's
So
the
what?
feminine.
So what you're? I'm trying to understand this because this is very deep. It's very complex, and for a guy with an IQ that exceeds 195, I have to tell you that I'm having very deep thoughts about this and trying to wrap my head around it, which is very unusual for me. So what I'm picking up is that the Tao of the Day, um, by Mao Dao Deng, correct?
Lao Tzu.
By Latu. Okay, I'm trying to look it up on the internet, and I'm getting different things
Lao
here.
Tzu, Lao Tzu, yeah, like not a lot's known of him, but like I mean, in shorthand, we would just say Lao Tzu because I mean, again, this is 600 BCE, right?
Right?
Like,
We're going to lose information.
yeah,
Okay, so the Tao of the Day is actually more of, taking the example of building a foundation, the structure of a house. That is the masculine you've indicated. But on the inside, what we do with it, bringing in all of the um, like the furniture, the appliances, all that stuff, the stuff that we would use on a daily basis, which is more of a nurturing concept, that would be more of the feminine aspect that we're looking at. Is that a pretty good
yeah. I mean, the Tao
comparison?
Day. So the first off, the Tao of the Day is just my interaction on wisdom with the Tao Te Ching.
Okay.
And the Tao Te Ching is just an ancient text of 81 verses. And those verses express how to live a reasonable life. And that is being expressed from the space of the feminine. I was talking to John LaCase. Do you know John LaCase?
I've heard of him, yes.
Yeah, he's here. He's here on Wisdom, and he was asking me about the masculine and feminine the other day as well. And he was like, "What if we have a group of starlings in the sky, and you have one group that's masculine and one group that's feminine, and how would they interact with each other?" And I was like, "Well, actually, there is no group of starlings that's feminine. Like all of the starlings are masculine in energy. Maybe some of them are female, but they're all masculine in energy, and the sky is the feminine. You cannot experience the sky until the starlings are in it. When the starlings are in it, now you can experience the space of the sky. Otherwise, there's nothing there. And that is why the feminine is so important. And that is like most religions kind of focus on the masculine. I mean,
Yes,
we
they
talk about
do.
father and all, and like all of the actions and the jealousy and all of the punishment and all of that. The Tao looks at everything as neutral and is able to do what feminine do best, and that's receive. So like
Interesting.
the room in your house receives all of the things you put in it. So if you put a couch and chairs, it receives it. If you put two dogs to fight until the death, it receives it. That's the feminine. The feminine receives what you bring, and that is your life. Like your life is a neutral space to experience, and so you can receive whatever is present. The masculine is, in the logic sense, is the economic system, is the education system, is all of these things that have structure. But what's important is how you use those things. What's important is how those things interact with your experience.
And the Tao is it may be spiritual in nature, but it is not a religious entity in and of itself, if I'm understanding that correctly
Yes.
as well.
So Taoism is a tough thing to pin down because again it is old. So it has splintered off into so there is the religious Taoism and there's lots of gods and other things like that. Um, uh, but the Tao Te Ching, the basis of all Tao and Taoism sorts of interactions with the world, is a text of like literally it's a text of living reasonable. It is not. It is not about following anything. It is an understanding of truth in the sense that like yes, there is consciousness, and we are part of that consciousness. That consciousness in this aspect is called the Tao.
Okay, perfect. Now, what I'd like to ask is two more questions. The first would be is I'm almost out of time. I'm down to 3 minutes. I would like to know if I could come back up, and I would like to be able to pick a number and have you explain it to me so that I can see how that might apply to my personal life. Would that be acceptable?
That's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. What
Oh,
what I would love to do is to have you yeah, why don't you pick a number now and then we'll get you out and back in and then we'll go through the number.
Perfect. That sounds great. I would like to talk about number 68 because those are my two favorite numbers, 6 and 8. What I'll do is I'll leave and I'll come right back
And then
in.
come
How's
right
that
back
sound?
in. That sounds perfect. And I know, Mary, you're in line. I am going to be keeping it short today, but I'll try and get to you as soon as we're done with Chronos.
Thank you very much, Martin John, for doing this.
Absolutely.
I've never done this with you before, so I'm very curious as to how this can relate. And so I'm very grateful for you for taking the time with me and helping me understand.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The Tao is something that has helped me throughout my life, and so, um, I was introduced to it in my early recovery. I got 21 years clean and sober, and this really kind
Congratulations.
of, thank you, and this really helped me understand how to proceed in terms of understanding like the work that I do, which is, I talk about this idea of recovering yourself. So, 68, the best athlete wants his opponent at his best. The best general enters the mind of his enemy. The best businessman serves serves the communal good. The best leader follows the will of the people. All of them embody the virtue of non-competition. Not that they don't love to compete, but they do it in the spirit of play. In this, they are like children and in harmony with the Tao.
Wow, I picked the right one. To me, if I may go ahead and expound,
Please.
I prefer to consider myself, you've heard the term servant leadership. It's something that I think is overused, but you've heard of that, correct?
Servant leadership?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I take that beyond a step and I consider myself to be what I call an authentic leader. Um, an authentic leader basically picks up on everything that you stated there, that the authentic leader is there to serve the people that follow him. He is there to guide them, direct them, and lead them on and bring out the best in them while holding him or herself accountable for their own needs and wants and desires and accepting their own failures. And so I can see how number 68 definitely would resonate with me and my personal philosophy. So I can understand now a little bit more closely how the Tao of the Day actually works. So I appreciate you for doing that.
Absolutely. And, I love going through these line by line. And so we're going to start here at the top. And I think that that's a beautiful way of looking at it, like, because when you, with what you expressed, like that you're not trying to compete, you're not trying to be in a space of, uh, of competing with other leaders, whoever they are, right? Like you allow them to be there, and if people are going to follow them, good on them, and if people are going to follow you, good on you. Like it's just good on, and when the people are done following you, off they go. Like they're not yours to hold on to.
Correct. Exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly my philosophy.
Yeah. So we start this with the best athlete wants his opponent at his best. This is like it's always interesting when you watch sports stuff and you talk about, oh, we have an advantage because one of their best players is injured, and it's like, but this statement is like, what a great idea of like, hey, it's okay to lose.
Yes.
You want your opponent at their best because that will push you to be better.
Exactly.
And and that is the best athlete wants their opponent at the best. That doesn't mean the best at a specific sport, but the best in their heart. And that's where an athlete resides. And you could be horrible. You might not even be a professional, but you still want your opponent at their best because you're not in it to win. You're in it, as we kind of relate later on, to compete, but you compete from a place of play. I play cribbage with a friend of mine on Saturdays. And when we play and she loses, she gets frustrated,
Right.
But when I lose, she's always like, "How are you not upset? Like you've been losing all day." And I'm like, "Well, if you weren't here to play, I couldn't play at all."
Hmm.
And that's what makes play so important. And it's not about competing, it's about being here with you. So the best general enters the mind of his enemy. What are your thoughts there?
Well, for me, that means that you try. For example, I am a competitive person by nature, but I don't base my management style or my existence on whether or not I win. I base it on whether or not I'm able to achieve similar results, and how do I use my skill sets to achieve similar results without actually competing. So I
Hmm.
have to understand how somebody else functions in order to better improve my own status within my work environment.
Right. Because if you held to your concepts only and weren't able to see the insights of the person that is on the other side, then you would be in this space of selfishness. You would be in this space of wanting other people to follow you
Correct.
rather than allowing them to find their way to you.
Wow, this is getting to be deep.
So the best businessman serves the communal good. That's one that we're probably facing really, and so we have to think this was written 3,000 years ago, right?
Mhm.
Thereabouts. And how this was written, under kind of frustration. So Lao Tzu was leaving because all of this stuff was breaking up, but he saw it 3,000 years ago. So what we're seeing today with, like Amazon and Bezos and how, like, okay, he's serving the communal good maybe because he's getting people what they want, but is that good for the community, right? Like, is the way he's doing it good for the community and all of these things? And it's like, yes, he is a great businessman, but the best businessman like serves the communal good, and that is on a broad scale, both for the business that you're in and outside of it, in and out of that.
Right.
The best leader follows the will of the people. We're seeing, like I see this all the time where it's just like my constituents, but you don't know, but they don't know what the constituents really want. They just want what they want. It's always been interesting to me when a politician would be against, gay marriage, against gay marriage, against gay marriage, until their daughter turns out to be a lesbian. And then all of a sudden
Exactly.
they change their tune. Were they ever following the will of the people? No, they weren't. When you can be swayed just because one person in the world turned out to be a lesbian, that changed your entire focus. One single person. Yes, it happens to be your daughter, but it only happens to be your daughter because there were millions of people who were there before, and you didn't care about a single one of them. The best leader follows the will of the people. And if you go to the will of the people and they don't want gay marriage and your daughter turns out to be gay, well, you still follow the will of the people. You do not just change your. And I am all for gay marriage, of course. I am all
Oh
for
yeah,
all of those things. Yeah.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
understand that.
And what I'm saying is that, like, if you're a leader, find out what the people actually want and go and find and like follow their will, and don't persuade them to like what you like. Don't ask questions that will give you in a way that will give you the answer that you want to hear. Be present. Like, you're the best athlete wants his opponent at his best. Like, that's the approach that we want to take. We want to take this approach of being able to be wrong, because being wrong is the most beautiful thing we could be. because that opens us up to growth. All
Perfect.
of them, the best athlete, the best general, the best businessman, and the best leader, embody the virtue of non-competition. You're not here to compete. It's not that you don't love to compete, but you do that competition in a place of play. Imagine if it was just like, well, let's see what happens. Like, what do people want? Like, this is fun. Everyone takes themselves so seriously.
Yeah,
And
and
this
they
is where
can't.
the the strength of the masculine energy. This is where the closed off nature of the masculine energy, the structure of the masculine energy really takes hold because
And
people can't. Go on.
and that and that's kind of how I described my authentic leadership. I make my place of employment when I was working before I became disabled was I made it into a fun place to express yourself, to be able to play, to work, and still remain productive and profitable and efficient. But you have to be able to embrace the playfulness within the essence of each individual.
Right. Because each individual is so different. And that's why there is no competition. That's why this is a space of non-competition. Of course you love to compete, but you do it to see what each other has and learn and continue to grow. And it has nothing to do with being better than.
Right.
In this, they are like children and in harmony with the Tao, because children can receive that.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you so much for joining me for Tao of the Day.
Well, no problem. And you know what? They actually have the Tao of the Day as an app for the iPhone, and I just downloaded that,
Oh, is
so
it?
I can. Yeah, it's under Daily Tao apps on Google Play. So I downloaded that, and I just looked at number 68 as you were going through it with me,
Yeah.
and that way I can actually, when I come into your channel again, I can actually read it and look
Read
at
it.
it and
Yeah.
listen a little bit more intently. So
Is the
if
translation the same?
exactly the same,
Okay, so
the
then you have a really good translation. Like this is the Stephen Mitchell translation. It's not like the definitive translation. It's just the one that I think is most accessible. I'm moving to a different translation, but because you and I haven't spoken on this platform before, I was using the Mitchell translation, which is just the easiest to understand.
well, if ever you wanted to direct people to an easy understanding, now you know it's available on the Apple Store,
And what's
so
it
that
called?
it's called Daily Tao, yeah,
Daily Tao?
which is TAO, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Daily Tao.
And when I
Beautiful.
typed that in, it popped right up, and I was able to download it. And
Awesome.
I've put it onto my main screen of my iPhone so I can follow it more closely and actually have maybe a deeper understanding of who I am as an individual. So, Martin John, thank you so much for taking the time. I know that you've been rushed here today, um,
No, yeah, we're
but
good. Thank you for joining me.
you have a blessed day. I know you have Mary in the queue, so I'm going to disappear. Wishing you a very safe, happy, healthy, and very blessed day today, Martin John.
Thank you, Kronos. Have a wonderful day. All right, we're bringing Mary on, Mary Kay, my buddy Mary Kay. And I don't know, maybe we'll stick with Mitchell. I'm feeling good about Mitchell today. How you doing, Mary?
Good morning.
Good morning. Look at you, smiling and happy today.
Yeah, making European breakfast. I'll
Oh
make
yeah, what
one.
what European? What European country
Uh,
would you be? Like
so
is because I think they have different breakfasts and like
yes, we don't have like bacon and eggs and all that.
yeah, no.
So we have like cheese, butter, toast, honey. We put honey in on top of the cheese, salty cheese, and
Yeah,
peppers and
wonderful.
tomatoes. I'm missing tomatoes today.
Oh, fried tomatoes are so good.
Not fried honey, raw tomatoes.
Oh well, you know.
But I love
Um.
fried green. That was one of my favorite movies, by the way. Fried green tomatoes.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
People love that movie.
yeah.
So, what? This is gonna you're gonna be my last guest today on
Okay,
Tao of the Day.
so I'll make it brief. And I got a phone call, and I added the numbers number 9.
Number nine. Number nine. Number
And
nine.
I think I know who Steve Mitchell is. I've met him.
Stephen Mitchell. Yeah, he's Byron Katie's husband.
Well, I didn't know. I met the guy by, pure chance as usual. Yes, I Googled him and I recall his face, and I
Oh, okay.
to detail at a later time. I'm
All
gonna
right. Well,
figure it out.
we'll connect. Okay,
Yes,
so fill your bowl to the brim, and it will spill. Keep sharpening your knife, and it will blunt. Chase after money and security, and your heart will never unclench. Care about people's approval, and you will be their prisoner. Do your work, then step back, the only path to serenity.
wow. Fill your cup.
As you're making breakfast, I can see, like fill your bowl to the brim and it will spill. Like we do that in this world so much. We want so much to have so much. We want more all the time. And as we engage in the world and as we engage in things around us, we want all our friends, and we want all the parties, and we want all the things, and all that does is mean that we lose some of it. We spill some of it. It's like I want all of this. It's like if you're like, oh, I want all of this cereal, and I get a big bowl and I fill it up, and then I fill it with all the cereal, and I fill it with all the milk, and all the cereal spills out because it's still floating on top of the milk. It's like, oh, even though I want all of this, like, do I like that I'm doing this thing? This
You
brings
know,
up that question of like the difference between like and want.
there was a time in my life, and I did it, and I wanted it, but I didn't want it for myself. I honestly didn't. I did it for the thrill and the knowledge and the quest. And I gained a lot,
I'm
including
sure. I'm
finance,
sure. I'm
and
sure a lot also spilled out.
a lot spilled out. Trust me,
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna die, and I walked out with $10 in my pocket, not
Yeah.
knowing where my life would lead.
And
But
then this goes on to say, keep sharpening your knife and it will blunt.
yes,
That's the thing. Like, if you try to get even a sharper, like, you can't have enough. This is like addiction.
it does become an addiction, and the thrill is addictive. And trust me, I've been there. And when I meet you, I will speak to you face to face and in details, and it could become overwhelming sometimes.
Well, I don't like being overwhelmed, but
Yeah, that I would I don't think I want to do that to anyone, because sometimes
oh yeah.
when I give like details and they look at me like, what the hell, did you really do that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, I did it. And there was more. And basically, I see the body language and the expressions, and then I start making jokes.
See, and that's where this kind of like, and we, like that idea of sarcasm and that idea of like making jokes and stuff. That's really just, like clenching. That's like there's so much there. It's like because there's seriousness going on, and then
Yeah,
we have this line: chase after money and security, and your heart will never unclench. And while it's clenched, like you don't necessarily make all the right choices
you
for
look,
you. Like like yes, everything works out, but it can work out with more loving care.
yes.
Care about people's approval, and you will forever be their prisoner.
Oh,
And
did I do that? Trust me, did I do that for my entire family, friends, and I wanted more and more and more approval, and it was never good enough.
yeah. And
And,
so at the end of this verse, it says these last two lines: do your work and step back, the only way to true serenity. And
and
that's the thing, like you did your work. You had to step away, you stepped away, but anytime you re-engaged, you weren't serene. You weren't being able to be serene.
no, no.
So,
So today when people question me and I tell them, please don't question me. Do you want me to lie?
Right.
I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
And I don't want to travel that path. But it's in my memory. It's a part of who I am.
That's right. But
And
do your work because that's your work.
yeah,
And then you step back,
and I
and
did.
the only path to serenity.
I walked out with $10 in my pocket, not knowing what on earth. I'm sure you heard about
Yeah,
you
yeah.
heard me talk about this. And I just did not want to get out of bed. You know, you call it depression, you call it anything you want, and I seeked help, and nothing really worked until
Right.
I was ready to be awake again. It was it was me, and
Yep. And now you can, now you're able to live more in a serene way.
I
And
look.
I'm really like I'm gonna have to cut you short because I have to go catch a plane. So
Oh,
so
don't come
I'm gonna
today.
let you go.
Don't
Thank
come
you so
today. It's
much.
not enough food.
All
Yeah,
right, have a wonderful day.
you
We'll be
too,
in touch.
my love. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Okay, so that was today's Tao of the day. I gotta go catch a plane, everybody. Love you guys. Hope you have a wonderful day. You can listen to these recordings here on Wisdom, but you can also listen to them through my website. Well, actually, do I have a link? Yes, through my website, I have my talks, and I also on Spotify. Tao of the Day is a podcast, so you can check it out there. I'm your host, Martin John. I host the Recover Yourself podcast, workshops, and all sorts of things. I work with a limited number of clients one-on-one every month. So when you're ready to discover your clarity, when you're ready to discover yourself, I am here for you. And I want you to reach out to me on Instagram, and I will send you links to the DAO. I will send you more information on how to work with me to gain your clarity back and recover your whole self. Thank you so much for joining me on Tao of the Day. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.